Hi, everyone, and we're back for another episode of Wedgie Talk. I'm your host, Hans Gutherson, and here I talk to some of the coolest and biggest names in the community about their fetish, wedgies, writing and creating art, and everything else we can come up with. I have an incredibly special guest here with me today, one of the most well-known, talented, popular, and prolific artists in the community, with more than 6,200 watchers, 1.5 million page views, and one of the most well-known artists of wedgie art around. The creator of works like She-Hulk Parachute Wedgie Picking and Wonder Woman Swirly Wedgie. He's well known for comics and animations. He's also the talent behind a Patreon with almost 300 patrons. It takes in more than 2,000 Canadian, if you're going by Canadian dollars, a month, which is massive. Very popular and talented artist and creator, the Killer WC. Thank you so much for joining me today, my friend.
Hello, thank you. Um, Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. It's the first time that I'm being interviewed for something.
You definitely deserve it, though. You are someone, when I ask people who they want to hear from on the podcast, some people in the community, they'd love to learn more about your name, is one of the first to come up because people are huge fans of yours. So I really appreciate you taking some time to chat.
Uh, I'm very thankful for all of this.
Thanks. Well, thanks again. So, to start off, I'd love to start at the beginning for you. We chatted about a bit about this before, but I'd love if you could sort of share some of your background and how you got into making wedgie art.
Oh, sure. Well, if I had to say, it started long ago. I mean, I was always sort of into it, but there was barely any content. At some point, I remember I found DeviantArt because I found some of, I think it was a Changemon. Yeah, I think it was a Changemon art that I found online. And then from there on, I was always into comics, okay, before that.
Mhm.
And I had this, well, I always wanted to do web comics. I actually became part of a website called Subcultura for a while, where I used it to draw my comics. And I started working with the paint in Windows.
Mhm.
After a while, well, I moved on to GIMP. And well, at that time I was in college. So it was very difficult because I wanted to continue doing my comics, but college life was a lot of pressure. So I was struggling a lot to keep up with both of them.
Mhm.
At one point, I actually had to leave college because even if I dropped my comics, I didn't have the capacity to keep up with what I was studying in there. Back then, I was studying biology actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I only made it so far. It was very hard. So coming back to comics, and after that, around that time, I got my first tablet. You see, back in Venezuela, we had this system where we got like, I think at the time was $400 for a year to use online. So I I'm not sure because then it was good to 300, then it was good to even further more. But well, I noticed I had only left around $200. So I decided to use them to buy myself a tablet. It's the tablet that I use for drawing. That is I think it was a Bamboo Create. Yeah, I think it
Mhm.
was a Bamboo Create. And with that, I set up to make my first drawing. During that time, I was in fanfic. I was working in fanfiction of Kung Fu Panda, and you can guess where I'm going from for this. Well,
Yeah.
basically, I promised that in the site that the first thing that I will draw will be a picture of Tigress getting a
Mhm.
wedgie from song. So the day that I got my tablet, I actually set up with a friend to try and see how it goes. And as she told me, draw me a mouse. I drew her a mouse, a very ugly mouse, because it was the first time using the thing. And then, well, the next day, I started working on that picture of Tigress getting a wedgie. And, well, you can tell it wasn't exactly very good, but a lot of people like it. I was surprised how many like it at the time. So during that time also, I was, that I was either leaving college or I think at the time I had already left college. I was working in a store. Well, it was a store inside a school. Inside a school. So it was like, how do you call this? A paper store?
Okay.
Well, and while I was working there, I was going to classes. In I was starting to get to private classes for about a year or 2 years, I think it was, in the Higuera Academy in Venezuela. It's a place where they teach comics, and I started studying there. They teach me stuff like the way to do ink work or the way that I do my traces over the paper. Improving everything that I already had practiced over the years, but formally, because before that, I really didn't have any training. I only did as I saw online or stuff like that, so it wasn't very good. After that, well, I started to try to apply that what I learned with my tablet. Well, from there, stuff started picking up, on DeviantArt.
Yeah.
After the one of Tigress, I did the other two. Then, if I don't recall wrong, another people started requesting pictures. So I did more pictures until someone, I think, recommended me that I started doing that for commissions. So there was this thing that I wanted. It was a Godzilla figure. A Godzilla figure that was like, I think, $60. I started saving for it from my commissions. And my commissions started very low. I started around the minimum in DeviantArt, I think. I started around 20 cents or something like that.
Wow.
But quickly put it up to around $5, I think. I think it was around 5 or 10 bucks or something like that. And from there, well, I started getting more pictures and I started practicing more. I keep doing more artwork and more pictures. Well, from there, things pick up. Oh, I did got the figure of Godzilla that I wanted.
Awesome. That's great. So you get that, and then you grow to this sort of amazing place that you're at with the Patreon doing so well and such popularity on DeviantArt. It must be crazy to sort of look at that growth you've had from getting the tablet to making commissions for a few cents to really, it seems like being one of the most successful artists the community has, making wedgie art and a lot of other art that you make as well.
Yeah, it has actually been life-saving, honestly. You know how I mentioned that I work in a sort of a paper store on a school? Well, that was my work, and I was doing less than minimum wage in Venezuela. Less than minimum wage in Venezuela is something like less than $2. So,
Wow.
yeah, so
Wow.
it was okay. I will help my mom with what I make with what I was making, but it was not good for much more. So at one point, I started to realize as I was getting more commissions, especially after that I did that KFW comic of Kung Fu Wedges. After that, it really started picking up, as I say. So I started to realize I could use this to make more money than what I do at work. I just need to transfer the dollars to bolivares. And then, well, at one point, I just quit. I quit my
Wow.
job and I started working on this 24/7.
That's wild and just so interesting to hear. I appreciate you sharing that. So, from that working on it 24/7, it sounds like it's the big focus for you. I'd love if you could sort of take me through what your process is like making art, and everything from sort of how long it maybe takes you to create a piece, and really what it's like for you when you're making it. What do you do to do that?
Well, I usually start with a simple sketch, just a shape, trying to get the right shape that I want to picture into what I'm doing. But the thing is, sometimes the client wants something else. So I try to adjust to what the client wants. Other times, when the picture is for me, okay, something that I want to do, so then I I try to get a bit experimental. I try to think of different poses, different things that I can try. You know, sometimes I look around on comic page, like stuff from Marvel and stuff, see how they do stuff, and try because I'm not certainly very good at try to translate something of the good stuff they have into what I do. Mm,
Okay. Interesting. So I like that you mentioned experimentation too and trying that out. Um, I guess one thing I'm curious from that and what we've been talking about when we're talking about presence, um, not presence, sorry, but your growth and when you started out and getting to this point, I'd love to sort of dive into what you've maybe learned from since you started, and how you've maybe grown as an artist.
well, one of the things that I learned is, I guess, is patience. Because you know how I say that I was working 24/7 on comics?
Mhm.
Well, that actually play into my arm. You know, there was a period a few years ago when Patreon was starting that I pushed myself too hard. I couldn't feel my pinky anymore. Yeah, I had to get surgery. I think the pictures are still on DeviantArt. I had to get surgery, or the doctor say otherwise. This could extend to the rest of to the rest of my hand, and I could even have trouble holding a pencil if I didn't work into it. So, well, I had to get out of commission for a little while, but at the same time, I didn't. I also started working with my left arm, and that was around the time when I did the She-Hulk animation.
Mhm.
I actually did that one with my left arm partially, and then when my right arm was fixed, I started working with it on that animation. Another thing that I have learned, I guess, it has to be with maybe don't work too hard on pictures, because sometimes I try to do as many things as I can on a picture, but I'm doing a bad job, and I realize when I'm near the end. So then I have to maybe try and start again, or just clean up the color and start working in the flats again, because stuff just don't look good. You look at other pictures online and maybe you find something that is very simple, maybe even not even shaded, and you think, wow, that looks amazing.
Mhm.
And here I am putting like 40 layers of effects on something and it looks like crap.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So it sounds like definitely patience, and it sounds like another aspect you learned is sort of, figuring out what's good to you, maybe. Is that a good way to put it? Like figuring out what good art is to you, maybe developing that sort of eye as an artist?
Exactly. You have to experiment different stuff. I have tried different styles over the years, and well, what I find that works on different ones, I try to apply into what I'm learning and
Mhm.
what I apply into my pictures.
I love that. And are there some examples of, maybe you mentioned Marvel as a really interesting one, especially because you've drawn some Marvel characters like She-Hulk,
Oh yeah,
and some like that. And so it sounds like Marvel's been an inspiration. Are there other styles you maybe drawn from that have helped sort of influence your work and maybe change the way you make art?
sure. The one of Fred Perry and Tom from Two Kings. Fred Perry is the artist of Gold Digger and other series that he has done. And I look a lot at his work when I'm drawing because, well, he draws a lot of tight clothing and it makes for an excellent work in anatomy.
Mhm.
So whenever I am confused or something, I also, when I'm trying to do a picture, I'm not sure how to draw certain parts of the body. I look up his comics and, well, I try to learn from them. And Two Kings, well, I have seen his streams and the guy is amazing. He does such great pictures with so. I mean, like you have to see the picture of the guy that does Two Kings because it, when he does them, it's like he does little details, little stuff that adds up to so much on a picture, and his pictures looks fantastic. His comics are very pretty, and I try to learn from that. I'm not sure if I'm getting out of the subject. Sorry.
No, that's excellent, my friend. That's super great examples of, I think, works that have inspired you. And I love you mentioned little details being so important, and I think that can often be lost for artists creating work. So I think that's super
Oh, that's
insightful.
another thing. Fred Perry is also one of the first ones that I know of that did Wedgie work.
Oh,
If
okay.
you look at his comics, in Gold Digger actually, there is many wedges in that series.
Wow. I know what we're all going to start reading now after we read your comics. We're going to go straight to him. That's wild. That's very cool. So I guess from that, we've chatted about some of your growth there and some things you've been learning. Are there any big challenges for you at this point when it comes to making wedgie art? Things you maybe still struggle with as an artist?
Animation.
Hmm.
I'm trying to learn to do animation very good, but well, it's a struggle because sometimes actually I can talk about this. I think it was last year or 2019 that I did a comic. I tried to do an animation, sorry, not a comic, animation about Batgirl. But well, I started working on it, and as I was working on it, it didn't click. It wasn't doing good, and I had to suspend it because I found it like it was going to be a waste of time.
Hmm.
Halfway through, it was not flowing well, and it was going to be very rushed. So I suspended that animation and never released it. Yeah. Maybe at some point I should try taking back. But right now I keep looking at videos about animation, programs that I can use. Lately I have been working only on Clip Studio, but I really want to save up to get a legal copy of Toon Boom so that I can work in there, use that program to do my animation. It's one of the best animation programs out there. But Clip Studio is very good too.
That's excellent. And that's super cool to hear that's something you're looking to grow into more. I've definitely heard of Toon Boom, and yeah, it is considered the best out there. So it'd be interesting to see how your art maybe grows to get that. But
I-
it sounds like you're really growing a lot as it is and really learning what you can, which is amazing.
If I had to say another thing, well, I'm trying to improve my work also. I mean, because I'm very aware that when I look at the past, it's funny because When I was starting, I thought, okay, this looks sort of okay. Then a few months pass, let's say 6 months. I look back, okay, that looks bad, but maybe now I'm good. A year passed, that looks terrible. But maybe now I am sort of good.
Mm-hmm.
This has repeated for a long time, to the point that I look at the first pictures of Patreon and I think, how the hell did I get away selling this stuff? This looks horrible.
That's
And
very
I'm pretty sure right now I'm gonna keep trying to get better because I'm sure in a year I'm gonna be looking at my current pictures and think that looks off. That is bad. That's not how the art is done. I know that I'm gonna be like that. So I have to keep trying to improve on my pictures. I look at classes online of how to do your ink work better, how to color properly, shading, different techniques on shading, how
mm-hmm.
to do stuff more efficiently. Like for example, the trees, how to do clouds better, backgrounds better. I have taken a couple of classes online also. So even though I left the academia I get long ago, and still getting classes online from time to time to try to improve a little.
That's amazing. And it's so cool because to me, that sort of ties into what you were saying earlier about the little details working together to create something amazing. And it sounds like that's sort of been you over the past little while, learning these small aspects, everything from clouds to details of anatomy, and really using it to improve your work as a whole, which I think is so fascinating.
Thank you.
So, you mentioned the Patreon, and this is something I definitely want to talk about. I mentioned you have huge numbers there, a giant audience, and you're making some great money there. I'd love if you could sort of, for people maybe not familiar with the Patreon or maybe who've seen it and are wondering what it offers, I'd love if you could maybe talk us through that a bit.
Oh, we had that many offers over the years. Currently, the Patreon sits at I think it was 4 tiers. Yeah, 4 tiers. The first tier is at $5, and it gives you just a second water. Thank you. It's at $5, and it gives you access to all the content of the Patreon. But the problem is the platform is a bit, how will I say, I guess confusing,
Hmm.
because sometimes people try to look back at very old stuff that I have done in there, and it's just hard to access, or at least that I already yet, and people have to delete their cookies, and it's hard to get there. But right, the tiers. Sorry.
Mhm.
Uh, there is also the $10 tiers where people can vote for what they want every month. On we do this at the start of the month, where people suggest what characters they want for the pattern to be done on the poll of the month, and they vote for it. So those in the vote tier get to vote for the characters that get done on the month.
Mhm.
There is also now the $20 tier and the $40 tier. What do you get with those tiers? You get a sketch, a detailed sketch. I will have to show you something, but you can see something on my DeviantArt actually. Some of my pictures that are sketched um, for Unit Wolf, and a sort of what the sketch that I do for selling there. In the $40 you get 2 sketches, and people seem to really have liked this option. I tried different methods to offer the kind of thing, like accessible or more affordable commission prices for people online. Like maybe people don't want a full on commission. Maybe they want
Mhm.
just something simple, something simple and quick to be done. So there is now this
Yeah.
option, sorry.
Mhm.
Not sure if that was all right.
No, that was excellent. I appreciate you breaking down the tiers like that. Wedgie Comics, your Patreon. Yeah, I was looking through it. It seems like there's so much that you offer there, from sketches, and now you've been doing more animation, as well as a lot of comics. One thing from that I'm curious about is just how you so productive. How do you put out so much work so constantly? You mentioned before it being a stress on your hand, but I'm just curious about what your sort of method is for being so productive and keeping on top of all of this.
Well, I have to have time for relaxing.
Mm,
I start working around 10 a.m. and then it stops around 3 p.m. to take a rest for, maybe I play a game or read a book. But otherwise, I need time to relax because I can feel it. I can feel the tension on my hand if I push it too hard. There is also, well, I also had to balance with my job here in Miami. Um, well, when they call me to go there, I have to go. With the world pandemic that has been going on, there has not been that much business, okay?
mhm.
But every once in a while, like maybe two times a week, I'm called to go and help. And well, I have to go because I need that job for, well, to get me through my process here in getting, what do you call it?
Like a visa?
Yeah, I think it's that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I have a job, a work permission. I wouldn't work if I didn't have one. But
Hmm.
I need to get my jobs. I need to keep my job so that I can get. I think it was that a visa.
Okay. I understand. Yeah. Interesting. Wow. And it must be a lot though, balancing work, traveling to Miami, and then also, yeah, making sure all of these tiers get the content um, as well. So finding time to relax, I guess, like you said, must be big. I'm just curious, is there any sort of special methods you have for relaxing? Any things you like to do to sort of help you stay fresh?
Mm, there is meditation. It's just helping. I listened about it some time ago. Well, thanks to my mom, but and she told me about this thing. You have to think like 30 minutes. You close your eyes and you just start breathing slowly. It's regular meditation. It's very simple stuff. I think, well, I mean, simple because I really don't do much. I just sit down and try to relax. Oh, aside from that, there is also, well, works out. I also work out on my with weights so
Hmm.
that I can, you know, work my hand in other ways that maybe can help not to create that pressure that it used to have. I'm not sure if it has helped me, but I feel like my hand doesn't get that much tense anymore, you know. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, balancing my that other work and this one is very hard. I sometimes just when I get back from there, I drop down on the bed and start and fall asleep. But then there is also that sometimes they really don't need me for like a week. So I take advantage of that time. I work pretty much every hour that I can up until very late at night.
That's very cool. And so cool to hear how you're able to strike that balance in such a busy schedule, which is excellent, I think, and rare. So that's super cool achievement. So one thing I'm curious about too, you were nominated for a bunch of awards this year in the Wedgie Awards. People saying they love your art, think you're the best artist of the year, and I think your name's come up many times before in previous awards nowadays. I'm just curious, we talked a lot about your history, sort of going from making a couple cents on commissions to now making a lot more money and having people really satisfied across these tiers. I just love to hear what it's been like for you, sort of going from being a student to someone who's just so popular as an artist.
It's been very weird. It's been very weird because, well, I was I was never I was never very popular in school. I was very outcast and pretty much nobody liked me. So seeing all these people around me is like, what do they want? It's very hard not to be suspicious. It's like I see someone acting very friendly towards me, and it's like, what are you planning? What are you going to do to me?
Oh wow.
It's very hard.
Hmm.
Is there is also that thing I was really not expecting to be. I guess I never really expected to be popular. I mean, I just wanted to make a bit of money. I was in Venezuela. I just needed a very small amount of cash to go buy and to see this blow up into the point that is now that I can do a decent living from it. I mean, it's great. It's fantastic. I'm not sure. I might get off topic. I'm sorry.
No, that was very well said, my friend. It's wild to think, and I imagine something I guess artists probably deal with more than some writers potentially is you might have to deal with people reaching out and just asking for art and stuff. So I imagine that might be the flip side of being so popular. You just have a lot of people asking you for things and requesting art and stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
is
very
that a
weird.
challenge? Yeah.
It's like I'm very surprised because, well, as I said, I was always really into comics, but whenever I told someone back at home, nobody cared, or basically everybody just dismissed it like something like, well, not something important, because back in Venezuela, really, comics is not something that sells. You
Hmm.
see political comics, you see comics on the newspaper, but you don't see someone actually making it. It has to be someone who has been in there for 20 years to make some money from making comics in Venezuela. So when I was starting getting into it, and well, it was a surprise. It's like if suddenly J.K. Rowling you publish Harry Potter and poof, what the fuck? Suddenly all these people are enjoying my work and like
Mhm.
seriously, why did they like it so much? I really.
It is so wonderful to hear that it's taken off for you, and it sounds like such a wild journey, which is amazing to hear more about. I'm curious
And
too
uh-huh.
about the future for you. We've chatted a lot about what you're up to now. I'm curious, is there anything right now you can tell us about, and also maybe what the future holds for you and the Patreon? Things you might wanted to try for the first time, experiment, or just projects you wanted to take on in this new year?
Well, as I said before, I got into what I want to improve on. I really want to get better into animations. I'm thinking about saving up enough that I can buy a license for Toon Boom so that I can use the program to do maybe shots. But I'm still thinking about it because, well, Toon Boom is very expensive, so I will have to save a bunch of money. But I think little by little, maybe in a few months, if the pattern keeps growing, if I keep saving my money from my commissions, I can save up for a Toon Boom license. And I really want to make cartoons because Toon Boom has this tool that you make like basically a puppet that is 2D, and it will be cool for making very short animations very quickly. I will only have to animate some extra stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's still just a dream. It's not something certified because I also have to send the money back to Venezuela to have my mom and my family that is in there. A
A
bunch
lot of
of
commitments, yeah. Sorry?
A good chunk of the money also goes there.
Mhm.
You know, I transfer the money to Bolivares, and my mom deposits it and share it with the family. It it has actually been a really great help. I'm not sure how to say this, but well, I really want to say thank you to everybody who has supported the Patreon so far, because without them, well, my family would be in some trouble for it. Um, I'm really, really thankful for all of this.
It's very
And
powerful.
I'm very happy because, well, it all started from so little. And to think that from that it will grow up to something I'm capable to help my family with is amazing. And I'm doing it with bots.
Yes, yeah, butts and wedgies, but it's so powerful and beautiful to hear it really has had a positive impact on your life and been able to help your family. So I appreciate you sharing that with the community and your fans. That's beautiful. I think we covered a lot of really excellent stuff here. It was so great to hear more about your work, your process, and what we can maybe expect from you in the future. You left us on such a great and beautiful message there with the thanks to your fans. Is there anything else you wanted to say to your fans, to those on the Patreon, or anything we didn't touch on that you wanted to mention to end us off?
um, Not really. I mean, mm, not that I can think of. I mean, there is my webcomic Unit Wolf, but it's not really that much into this subject, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, because I believe we talked before, right? You mentioned there's work you're doing obviously outside of the community. As I recall, I think you said it'd be cool for your future if you could really get into comics. Is that something you're sort of like, does the future maybe hold for you becoming like a professional comic writer potentially or artist?
mm, yes and no. I really want to work into comics, but I also want to work into my thing. I want to work into, for example, Unit Wolf, or maybe another other comic that I could come up with. Because if originally I wanted to work for a company, you know, I wanted to work for maybe Marvel, for maybe DC at some point in my life. But as I grew up, I realized that if I work for them, I'm gonna be doing their comics. I'm not gonna be doing my stuff.
Mhm.
So I really wanted that liberty, you know, to be capable to telling my own stories. So I really want to do it, but if I do it, it's gonna be my stories.
I love that. I love that. Being able to tell your own stories. It sounds like ever since you wanted that first Godzilla figure, that's what you've been doing. And maybe you're using some familiar characters, but you, especially now, it sounds like you're expanding into telling your own stories, your own brands, which is so cool. So I know I, for one, am super excited to see what the future holds and what this year holds for you and where you take your art next and how you continue to grow. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I hope we can keep in touch as you create more, and I can't wait to see everything else you create. This was so great hearing from you.
And thank you again for giving me this opportunity to have this interview. Thank
It
you.
was an absolute pleasure, and I hope I get to chat with you more in the future as you
Sure.
continue growing and learning. Oh, that's great. Thanks, my friend. All right, well, thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. Definitely be sure to check out the Killer WC's DeviantArt page and his Patreon, Wedgie Comics, for some of the most popular content, art, animation around.
I
And
also have a Pixie and a Newgrounds.
that's right, the Newgrounds and the Pixie. You find all those links too on his DeviantArt as well, and I'll be sure to share them in the link to this episode so you can find that. Thank you again, Killer WC, and thank you everybody for listening. I hope you stay safe and take care this new year. Thanks again.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.